We're not throwing around any knife cases today for two very good reasons. The first is that the case that's in my hands is massive, but also it is extremely limited edition. How's it going, everybody? I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny, and I'm excited because my friends over at Midgards Messer USA have lent me a knife that I never thought I would ever have the opportunity to hold in my hands, because it's the second variation of a knife that was released a couple of years ago, and those knives initially sold out so quickly. You couldn't get one on the secondary market. You just couldn't find them, and they were highly sought after by collectors and enthusiasts. So when they came out with the second variation and they did the drop, they again sold out extremely quickly. I am, of course, talking about the Midgards Messer Valhalla. And if you haven't seen pictures of it yet, you may want to stick around, because what's in this case is absolutely mind-blowing. Let's go ahead and check out the Midgards Messer Valhalla.
This is Sparta!
Today, this is not Sparta, this is Valhalla. Welcome in, everybody. I'm super excited, if you can't tell, because we've got some extremely limited knife goodness in front of us, and I backed up the camera, well, because I had to. This is a massive, gigantic case, which means that we are once again going to talk about a massively overbuilt knife, and I absolutely love those. I'll tell you right now that if you are someone that says, I only like knives that weigh 4 ounces or less, this is probably not for you. Shout out to my friends over at Midgards Messer USA for lending me this knife. Now, I know a lot of people think that I only review knives that are given to me. That is not true. I like checking out knives because it's a lot of fun, and it's a passion/hobby of mine. And oh my goodness, this is the Midgards Messer Valhalla. And it's the second version of a legendary knife that was released a while ago, and then it disappeared. But now it's back, baby. Well, kind of. You see, they did a pre-order on this, and all of the units that they were planning on making, well, they sold out in the pre-order. If you check out the blade on this bad boy, it says number 3 of 300. So hopefully, if this is a knife that piqued your interest, you had a chance at it. Midgards Messer has been known to make some extremely limited, really awesome and unique knives, both folding and fixed blades. And if you don't want to miss out on the next one, I would go ahead and head on down to their website. I'll link it in the description. Super cool guys over there at Midgards Messer USA. That's right, you don't have to order this from Germany, because Midgards Messer is in fact a German company. You can order it directly from their USA distributor, but again, this one is sold out. I believe this sold for like $350 to $400 on the pre-order. It's more than just the material composition on this knife, and we're going to talk about it regardless. Now, you might be wondering, well, if it's sold out and it's super limited, why talk about it? Because it's awesome, and because I like talking about knives, which is why I made this channel. So first and foremost, I'm going to tell you how the locking mechanism works. I'll do some comparisons against other big beefy knives so that you have a reference point, and then I'll give you the pros, the cons, and my final thoughts. This knife is in fact massive. We've got deep engraved titanium handle scales with a full length back spacer. The blade is made out of CPM D2, and then of course we have this unique locking mechanism. I'm going to show you how this works, okay? So the locking mechanism has 3 pivots, not 1, or at least 3 that I can count. So you have to pull this out and deploy it with 2 hands. When you start pulling it out, it's going to pivot from here, from here, from here, and you know what? Maybe that is 4 or 5 pivots. Jeez. Anyways, this levers down and around, and then these tabs will end up locking like a liner lock against the handle scales, and there's 2 of those tabs. So watch this. That is insanity. That is probably the most involved locking / pivot mechanism that I've come across. Absolutely bananas. Now, you might be saying that's all well and good. How's the lockup? Well, you know, the lockup on this is actually pretty decent. If you want to release it, you have to press in on these 2 tabs, much like you would releasing a liner lock, but there is in fact 2 of them. So you press in and then it folds back in. So why all the smoke and mirrors? Why the crazy pivot mechanism? Well, it's simply because the blade is actually much larger than the handle scales. And so to fit this blade and to be able to make it fold, you actually have to do some voodoo and jujitsu to get that to work. Especially when we're talking about a blade that is much, much longer than the handle scales on a folding knife. This knife has some features that I think are really cool. First and foremost, I mentioned this full body length backspacer. I love how this actually melds in with the blade so that when it's fully deployed, it actually just feels like a continuation of the backspacer onto the blade. I'm also a huge fan of this really in-depth jimping. The fact that it's there tells me that they thought that somebody might actually want to use this and not put it in their display case. And the same goes for this big old finger choil right here. And yes, I said finger choil, not sharpening choil, because that's what it is. If you want to know what a large sized glove grip on this looks like, here you go. Yeah, for those of you who want a big knife, you know, some of you might be saying, oh, you know what, the Cold Steel Mayhem. The Cold Steel Mayhem doesn't have a whole lot on this as far as a folding knife goes. This is insanity, and it's big and it's beefy. Let's do some comparisons. How about up against a couple other Midgards Messers, since they are my biggest knives? This is the Midgards Messer Berserker, and it makes the Berserker seem almost dainty. And then, of course, we have the Midgards Messer Thunrar. That is crazy, guys. Absolutely crazy. All 3 of these knives are gigantic, but this one, absolutely the most. All right, so the pros of this knife. For one, the engineering behind this lock and pivot mechanism is absolutely wonderful. It takes a whole lot of time and energy to develop something like this, and the fact that it exists is actually amazing. Another big pro is the fact that even though you have this gigantic blade, it's not an open back because of this full backspacer and because of the pivot mechanism itself. If you are one of the crazy people that would actually carry this, the blade will be protected in its folded up configuration all the time, which means that stuff in your pocket, stuff in the bag are not going to ding that edge. Something else is the fact that they understood that some people actually would be interested in carrying this, and so they did think of those people, which tells me that it's not meant to be purely ornamental, even though I have a feeling that this is probably going to be what it ends up being for many of the people that did buy it. It is a collector's item with thoughts towards an end user. That's fantastic. Those are all big pros. Let's talk about the cons. Are you ready? Guys, there are none. If you're looking for a practical use for this knife, you are not looking at it in the right light. It doesn't need a reason to exist because it exists purely on the fact that it's awesome. And as a knife nerd, as a knife enthusiast, collector, and user, I, for one, am glad that it does exist. But I am interested in hearing your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Midgards Messer Valhalla? Did you see these when the pre-order dropped? Were you one of the few who were fortunate to buy one? If not, why not? And if you had the opportunity to buy one yet again, would you? Let me know. And if you want to watch more awesome knife content, make sure to click on the video that pops up next.